Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. I'm delighted to have Gemma Krasucka with us today to talk through talent development and really show her career off to us and how important talent development is and kind of really personal development within that. That's what we're really looking at today with Gemma, really share about that personal development. But Gemma, do you want to share who you work for? Because it's one of those ones that I think a lot of our viewers would go, you lucky sausage. Who is it you work for?
Well, my current employer is Leicester City Football Club.
Yeah, how fantastic is that? So that's brilliant. And
Yeah.
how long have you been at Leicester, Gemma?
Just over 18 months now. Yeah, it is absolutely brilliant, elite sport, but also getting the opportunity to support people's careers as well, which is something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, so welcome today. So in advance, Gemma's had 7 questions from us. So we always like to give our guests a bit of prep time to talk through. But Gemma, would you just share with our audience, your career, where you've got to today, those kind of things?
Yeah, sure. For the vast majority of my career, it was in UK holidays. So
Yeah,
working for the Bourne Leisure Group, which consists of, or did at the time, Butlins, Warner Leisure Hotels, and Haven Holidays. I started when I was 18 as a waitress. Really the old cliche of going down from Leicester to the seaside for a summer break. It was only meant to be 3 months, but then 20 years later, I was there
yeah,
and I'd moved into a central role. And as I left, I was leading the group inclusion and diversity agenda,
yeah,
which was just fantastic. Aside from that, I'm a personal trainer and fitness coach, so really supporting the development of people athletically, as well as now moving into my role into head of L&D at Leicester City Football Club.
So I better breathe in all of a sudden because of you being a
Yeah,
fitness
yeah,
coach as well. I'm just breathing in all of a sudden
yeah.
thinking,
Just make sure you are supporting your back with your core muscles
yeah,
there,
I'm
mate.
just doing a couple of bicep curls as we talk, just to make sure from that
Brilliant.
point of view, if that makes sense. So it's great. And Gemma and I have worked together before, so it's really, really exciting to have Gemma with us today. So I know people are going to take a lot. And we're going to go into today about actually taking like ownership of your personal development. So from a talent development point of view, but how do you really own it from personal development? And just to share with you, I've never come across anyone with such a brilliant CV. So your CV
Thank
is
you.
amazing, and I think it's just an accolade about personal development. So I'm really, really excited about today. So what does taking like ownership of your own personal development mean to Gemma? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think I always default to the dictionary definition because that's something that we can all relate to, and then I'll translate it into
Yeah,
the working context and to me personally. But if you were to look it up in the Oxford Dictionary or whatever, taking ownership literally means that you are the owner of something.
yeah,
So whatever it is belongs to you.
yeah,
And personal development is something that can only be owned by you.
yeah,
So if we relate it to the workplace, if we think about a common conundrum that somebody would present to me in the workplace would
yeah,
might be something like, I want a promotion.
yes,
So I'm looking to, aim higher. I'd like
yeah,
to, achieve something greater. And what you tend to get is two very different mindsets then presenting back to you.
yeah,
So somebody comes along to us and says, I'd like a promotion. And I'm like, okay, great.
yeah,
Talk to me about what your options are. So
yeah,
then it's back to them. And mindset one, or person one, if you like, might say something to us like, well, I don't really know because I'm
yeah,
just going to sit and wait because my leader's going to notice that I'm doing a great job and they'll promote me.
yeah,
So person one, really kind of sitting there waiting and
yeah,
hoping that people will notice. Okay, great, nothing wrong with that. Person two might come along and say to us, well, actually, I'm going to speak to my line manager about it. I'm going to identify
yeah,
what skill gaps I've got. I might want to go through a 360.
yeah,
So two very different mindsets, but one of them is most definitely taking ownership of what they
yeah,
can do, and that's person two. So taking ownership to me is literally somebody feeling as though they own the conundrum that they
yeah.
have. So yeah,
A really good point. And the bit there is, I just like the way that you put it. It wasn't overcomplicated. I like the way the reference. I've never had any one of our podcasts reference back to the dictionary, which is brilliant. So I really, really like that today. Of
That's the
going,
compliance in
yeah, that's
my
a, yeah,
personality style.
yeah. But actually, when you go back and I've just got this real belief about we control our own destiny. So there are bits that get in the way and bumps in the road. I totally get it. But there's a bit about if you want to be the best or in any way form of life, etc., that you've got to put a bit of effort in, and you've got to kind of think about how can I improve myself, look at myself first rather than what will people give to me, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
And I've seen that in the test of time with business, etc. But also it makes your career more enjoyable, doesn't it, because you've put that effort in
yeah,
from that point of view.
yeah. You feel a sense of achievement as well when
Yeah,
it is that you've put an action plan together and
yeah.
you can then see that come into life.
Yeah. So in your career, because your CV is brilliant, and I will say that again to our audience, it's a brilliant CV. So I will make you blush
Thank
from
you.
that point of view. But the bit there, what was the pivotal moment in your life that you thought, right, I really want to take charge of my personal development? Is there a point in your life where you go, you know what, that really struck me that I really wanted to make a difference? When was
Yeah,
that?
it goes back to when I was just about to turn 21, and this mindset has been in a part of me for my whole life. But I remember, so 18 years old, I joined Butlins and I'd started as a waitress. And very quickly, I was promoted to a supervisor,
Yeah,
and then I was a senior supervisor by the age of 20. And I remember thinking, okay, but I'm not done yet.
yeah,
And I was kind of looking around the different bars and restaurants that were on the Butlins Resort, and there was one that had recently become available, and it was a bar and it was a wine and cocktail bar. And I thought, I could do that, could
yeah,
do that. And the manager had recently vacated and had vacated it in not the best shape. So
yeah,
it needed attention, the team needed TLC.
yeah,
And I thought I could definitely do that.
yeah,
So I didn't really have a massive relationship with the head of bars, who was the overall decision maker.
yeah,
But I remember sitting there going, who is the decision maker here? Who can
yeah,
help me get to where I want to be, and who do I need to speak to? So I remember putting this really shoddy, I mean, I didn't even have a computer, this really shoddy business plan
yeah,
together. I mean, it must have been absolutely rubbish. But 20 years
yeah,
old, I remember walking up to
yeah,
his office, knocking on the door, feeling a little bit nervous. And he said, come in. So I walked in and I said, I know that there's a vacancy in
yeah,
this bar. Um, I'd really like to be considered for the opportunity. Here's my business plan. And I must have just shoved this piece of paper in
yeah,
front of his face. I had coffee stains and crumpled up and
yeah,
everything. And he must have, I clearly remember thinking he's going to take one look at this and go,
yeah,
what on earth? And he opened it and closed it again. And he said, all right. He said, if you really want to give it a go, he said, then you can go in there this weekend. And it was an adult break. He
yeah,
said, go in there this weekend and show me what you can do. We'll have a chat on
yeah,
Monday. And I remember walking out thinking, okay, all right,
yeah,
I'm gonna show him. I'm gonna show him.
yeah,
So I went in, and this was I just turned 21, so it was January. Really, really busy adult break, one of the first adult breaks of the year, and I absolutely bombed. I'm going to be honest, I absolutely bombed it.
I was just waiting for you to go. I absolutely nailed
No,
it.
I didn't. I did.
Yeah,
I literally didn't. I
yeah,
remember him coming in. It must have been like, the bar was taking 25, 30,000 pounds, a day.
yeah,
And I remember him walking in on the Saturday night, and everything was a mess. Stock was everywhere. And he was like, okay. And he was like, came and helped. But and I was like, I know this is not going well.
yeah,
But on the Monday, where the change happened
yeah,
was he sat me down and he said, talk to me about what happened this weekend. What did you learn?
yeah,
And I said, oh my God, I have learned so much. I said, I was able to reflect
yeah,
and identify areas that I didn't feel prepared for, that
yeah,
I hadn't considered, but I knew what I would do differently next time. And I
yeah,
told him, I said, I would totally appreciate if this is going to be an absolute no, but this is what I would do next time. And I was given the job. And that was the start of an
yeah,
incredible bar and restaurant management career. I absolutely loved it.
yeah,
We had such a successful few years, running different bars and restaurants.
yeah,
And that was the moment that my career changed. And I was able then to go on and do everything that I've done ever since. And it's because of that one moment and that manager having the belief. But I genuinely believe it's because I was able to self-reflect
yeah,
and be vulnerable, and
yeah,
say, I know that didn't go well, but
yeah.
I'll do better next time.
Yeah. And the bit for me is I really admire that manager going, should we just have a chat? And I love the bit of what did you learn? That
Yeah,
self-reflection to go, do you know what? Human beings know when things do not go well. Doesn't matter who you are, you don't need somebody going, that did not go well. You go, do you know, it's eating me up inside. I know it didn't go
yeah,
well. But actually that bit of going, what did you learn? You go, do you know what? I could have done this better, could have done that, etc. And that would have given the person confidence to go, yeah, go on and go and have another go. That kind of bit, rather than blaming other people, it was still your ownership, wasn't it? That
yeah,
accountability of this is what I'm going to do, not what other people need to do or blame. Because I
yeah,
do see a lot, and also, Gemma, you'll see a lot where people, when you said person one, person two will take accountability to go, what have I done wrong? Where I see person one is what other third parties have done wrong.
yeah, absolutely. They become
Would
the
you have seen that
victim.
as well?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I see that quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but a bit of going, actually, if you just looked at yourself, you'd be amazing
Mm.
rather than looking at third parties. So what practical strategies or habits can people adopt to kind of increase their accountability, for their own personal development? What could they start to do?
Well, there are for me, a few non-negotiables,
Yeah,
and they're quite simple. And if I think about any decisions, or even the situation I was in with my first management role that I've just explained, it's know what you want and why you want it.
yeah,
So, the why is really important there, because if you just know what you want and you go into it and you are going to hit a load of challenges, of course you are,
yeah,
because it's the unknown, it's new. The why is going to keep you honest and it's going to keep you on track.
yeah,
And it will ground you when those moments are feeling really, really tough.
yeah,
You might say, well, I want a promotion, and then you get it and you're like, yes, great, I've got my promotion. Okay, but why? Like, why did
yes,
you want it in the first place? What difference were you
yeah,
hoping to make? Um, so know what you want and why.
yeah,
Reflect and be honest with yourself often.
yeah,
And it's really difficult to move forward if you're not able to be honest with yourself,
yeah,
and reflect on the things that you're really good at, but also be open-minded enough to identify and recognize the areas that you don't have in your toolbox.
yeah,
We're, as much as we'd want to think that we're all superheroes and people will stroke our egos regularly, we're not, and we do have blind spots. So
yeah,
what are they, and who can help you with those? Um, and in doing that, you're reflecting on the stories that you're telling yourself,
yeah,
and how true are they.
yeah,
So we all have this internal story loop that's going, and sometimes it can play tricks on us. It can
yeah,
literally be naughty, and it can tell us
yeah,
stories that aren't true, and that can either erode confidence, or it can give an overinflated sense of
yeah,
self. But either way, it's not the reality. So as you're reflecting, what stories are you
yeah,
telling yourself, and what are you learning, how frequently and who from?
yeah,
So you could be learning loads every day. We're picking up things all the time. We're watching how people do things and
yeah,
then altering the way that we either talk or behave. And that's just societal conditioning. We do that all the
yeah,
time. But who's around you? What voices are you listening to? And how are they contributing to your growth?
yeah,
So th- three or four really easy ones. Know what you want and why,
yeah,
and the why being the important bit. Reflect and be honest with yourself often. Challenge the stories
yeah,
that you're telling yourself. And then what are you learning,
yeah,
and who from? I'm a constant questioner. I'm genuinely very, very curious. So I'm constantly thinking things through. But if if you're constantly questioning and then not taking any action,
yeah.
you're just a philosopher.
Yes, yeah, good. Oh, great shout.
And there's there's nothing really that's going to move you forward, because you'll be
yeah,
rooted in a sense of non-action through constant questioning. So, and that's the self-awareness bit of question, be curious,
yeah,
but also know what your next step's going to be.
yeah. And I think I just love the point there about like the why and the what. So I know when I always remember like my friends taking a mickey out of me when I started in the bank at 18. And people said to me, "What is it you want to do in the bank and that?" And I always remember, and I said, "I want to retire young." That was it. So the bit of all my career was built upon I wanted to retire young, or that kind of bit of I had this romantic thing about playing on a golf course, all this kind of stuff, just in my head. But at the age of 18, but that kept me centered. So every year in my career, it was like, okay, you're getting another step forward. This is how it's working. Those kind of bits. But that why kept me going through my 26 career year in the
Mm.
bank. And I think there's a bit there of even now, if I say to people, why are you working here? What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to go? And it's quite interesting. Quite people don't. I mean, they're just existing rather than actually why am I doing? Where am I going with this?
Mm.
Which I find fascinating. It's really great to start to peel back why people really want to do things.
Yeah.
And over the years, then why have you enhanced your development, the courses you've been on? What's really pushed you for your why?
I think I am so curious about the evolvement of life, of things, that
Yeah,
as soon as you've learnt something, you can put it into action, but then there's gonna there's gonna be somebody or something that's brand new. So,
yeah,
and the world's constantly evolving. So I am constantly wanting to learn. And also,
yeah,
nobody knows it all.
yeah,
I'm a firm believer in you can learn something from everybody that you talk to or you meet.
yeah,
You're either going to learn something that can make you better, or you'll learn something about how you don't want to be.
yes,
But either way, you're more rounded for that
yeah,
experience. So I think in everything that I've constantly learned, it's
yeah,
ultimately to make me better for
yeah,
other people. So
yeah,
when they are buying services from me, or when they're receiving coaching from me, or
yeah,
I'm listening to somebody talk in the workplace, I'm showing up the best version of them with as much information and experience as possible, in order to then help them open their mind. And it's not
yes,
to tell them about it. I'm not there to tell anybody anything unless they ask me,
yeah,
but it is so that I've got the full toolbox of resources to know which question to pull out at which
yeah,
point. Why is this person saying what they're saying,
yeah,
and what can my next move be in order to help them the most? And you
yeah,
can only really do that if you do keep learning yourself, and
yeah,
what you're saying is fundamentally who you are.
yeah. And I think that builds credibility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you think about your ability I want to keep learning, I want to be curious, I want to develop to be better for me, then I can help others. I think that shows about your integrity. So I think that that's a big, loud, clear. But it also shows people about, do you know what? I want to get better. I want to keep improving and things along that line. And it's even like for my personal bit of I've really immersed into AI. I really like it. It helps me from that point of view. It helps me think quicker, challenges me, those kind of stuff. But it's used to help me not overtake my work, but it's helping me be more curious, those kind of, and also educational from that point of view.
Mm.
But I just think there's one bit of you never stop learning. If you want to keep learning, that's a great place to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I literally yesterday, we'd gone to an event that was being held at the stadium. It was for our Silver Foxes, and they are people that they're not at work anymore. They've retired. They're
Yeah,
over. But there was this one lady that was kind of hosting the event, and
yeah,
she was really probably in her 70s, I would imagine. Although
yeah,
she could be younger, and I've just completely offended her. But she
yeah,
certainly was
yeah,
of that age. And she came round and she was hosting everything, and I said, "Oh my God," I said, "what a great energy you've got."
yeah,
And she said, "It's what I'm all about." She said, "We've just got to keep going and making sure that these experiences are brilliant for everybody." And
yeah,
I just thought, oh my God, she's somebody that could just be sat that she didn't need to do anything. She could have just been sat down on a table and,
Yeah.
looking miserable and whatever. But she
Yeah.
had such a sense of energy and purpose.
Yeah.
She had her trainers on, she was running around, she was,
Yeah.
saying hello to everybody. And I thought, God, I really, really hope that when I get to that age,
Yeah.
that's going to be me too, because she was absolutely fabulous and made a difference to that
Yes.
whole event.
Yeah. And I was thinking recently, I listened back to one of our podcasts with another one of our colleagues, and I forgot what they said, but it kind of resonated to me. Do you bring the shine to the room, or do you bring the shadow?
Mhm.
And what you've just said to me there, that lady there with it brought the shine to the room of actually, come on, we can do this, and the energy, those kind of things, and brings people with them. Or do you bring that shadow of, when I'm just here? If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
And
I'm just
it's, and
showing up.
yeah, I think it just really resonated to me again, what you've just said there. That person brought the shine to it. So what about external factors to help people in their personal development? So like mentoring, coaching, culture, how do they play a part from your experience in kind of that personal development and growth?
Well, I'm a massive fan of mentors. I think if we look at some of the top performers in the world, elite athletes, and if you watch them, either whether you're watching the Olympics, you're watching the track and field, whatever it is that you're watching, there comes a point where the camera then pans to the support team and it
Yeah,
pans to the coach or the sports psychologist, whoever it is.
yeah,
And then when you listen to the athlete speaking, they'll reference who they've had
yes,
around them. And that is, all the elite athletes, high performers in the world tend to have a coach. They've either got
yes,
one in the present moment or they've had one
yeah,
in order to get them to where they need to be. So, and they're there as a trusted ally. So, the coach, the mentor is somebody that is deeply trusted, and that's important. The word trust is
yeah,
critical in the process. But they're there, they're trained to spot inconsistencies. They're trained, and their sole purpose is to find the marginal gains, the
yeah,
incremental improvements that will make you better.
yeah,
So they can be brilliant, and they're such a great asset if they themselves are great.
yes,
And what I mean by that is, there's certain qualities that are non-negotiable if you're looking, or if I'm searching for a mentor or a coach for somebody in the workplace, is, are they self-aware?
yeah,
Do they have the ability to reflect and understand themselves? Are they qualified?
yeah,
So often I speak to somebody and say, who have you got around you? Who's coaching you? Oh, my friend Bill. Oh, brilliant. Like, that's great that you've got such a great
yeah,
friend, but how are they remaining into the third one? So we've got, self-aware, qualified,
yeah,
but impartial
correct.
as well, and having the ability to remain non-judgmental and have the impartiality to whatever somebody's saying. Because without the impartial bit, what you might find is that you just end up acting out someone else's decisions
Correct.
or acting out somebody else's view of what you
Yeah,
should do. And before you know it, you've then relinquished the accountability, you've relinquished responsibility, and you tend to hear, well, they so and so told me, oh,
yeah,
my mate Bill told me, and it's no longer your decision, and
yeah,
you've been advised wrong. So I think mentors and external resources, education is
yeah,
absolutely brilliant. And I've got a professional coach. I have one, and I think at some points in your career, if not throughout the majority of your career,
yeah,
it's really important to just take that step out
yeah,
and to see how you can be better. So I think what I'd probably recommend to anybody is to think about, who do you have around you?
yeah,
What qualities do they have? What are they bringing to the
yeah,
table? And how are they supporting your growth?
yeah. And it's the bit there, the essence of that you said about that kind of impartiality, but also the person coming up with the answers is super important. So, I have a rule that, and it's just kind of borne out, that people will, if they come up with the answer themselves, they're 80% more likely to do something with it.
Yeah,
If we tell them what to do, we've got about a 50% chance, but the ownership drops even more. And who do they blame when it goes wrong? Is the person that says, try this, do that. Whereas actually,
Absolutely.
if you say to them, what are you going to come up with? You've got that grey matter in your head, you've got life experiences, what could you do? They're more likely to own it, more likely to celebrate the success of it, and then actually go, I can do even better. So they start to kind of look after themselves rather than keep coming back to that same person, tell me what to do now.
Yeah.
So I kind of find that. And how do you reckon that kind of helps in the culture of the workplace? So having people that, a bit more, external coaches, mentoring those kind of, how does that help in the workplace culture?
Well, I think it gives it's the impartiality bit. So what you do tend to find within workplaces is these little mini micro cultures. They
Yes.
tend to be quite prevalent. So you've got your overall
Yeah.
business workplace culture, but then you have these little micro cultures. And if you think about your workplace or wherever it is that you're
Yeah.
imagining, you tend to, and it's the way that we work. We've built this up through conditioning from our school ages.
Yeah.
There's little cliques. There
Yeah.
there are groups. There are friendship groups. And what you get with those groups is you tend to get groupthink.
Yes.
So you align with people that think like you. We
Yeah.
find it easier to do that
Yeah.
because, I'm going to say something and someone they're going to agree, and it's
Yeah.
going to feel nice for me because it's going to reaffirm my thinking.
Yeah.
So with those microcultures, they can be either really, really helpful because you can have a microculture of positivity,
Yeah.
can-do attitude, constant support, or they can be the opposite and they
Correct.
can root you
Yeah.
into non-action really.
Yeah.
And everybody brings, their own take on what's
Yes.
happening. And sometimes it's not always helpful what it is they're
Yeah.
advising you and also why. So I think mentors, coaches are great, but within the workplace, it's identifying the people that are going to advise you with that sense of impartiality and have your best interests
Yeah.
in mind, rather than, you might find that somebody just wants to keep you around, so
Yeah.
doesn't want you to grow,
Yeah.
is more reluctant to advise you to take a leap of faith
Yeah.
because they just kind of want you around for their own selfish
Yes.
reasons, or they recognize that you are brilliant, but
Yeah.
in you moving on, it's going to identify
Yeah.
weaknesses in them. So um, I think the self-awareness around who you have around you
Yeah.
and being able to bring yourself out of your current situation and see the
Yeah.
reality or get a different view on it, find somebody that completely disagrees with you. I think I love that. I'll be thinking a certain way and I
Yeah.
think, right, who's going to disagree with me? Because I just need that opposite view
Yeah.
because I'm missing a whole load of this.
Yeah.
I think actually it came from yourself. You put a number six on the table, number six to
Yeah.
me, but you're standing the opposite side of it. It's number nine to you.
Yeah.
Who's seeing the number nine to my number six,
Yeah.
and what do they bring to the table
Yeah.
that I haven't considered?
Yeah. And I really like that kind of mature thinking about I'm going to go and find people that are not in my kind of microclimate to give me to challenge to think, and it's done in a professional way. It's not just to have a punch up and an
No.
argument, but that kind of bit. But
How
to say to
awful.
people, do you know what, this playing through my head. And I really like that to go, look, I'm tinkering around in my head. What's your view? I want to get a different perspective. I think that's so enriching for colleagues' development to go, yes, I'm showing a bit of vulnerability, but I'm also saying I need a bit of help, but I want to talk this through. Whereas when I see, and I think it highlighted more during the pandemic, where those micro climates, tribes, etc., either worked or they got worse and then they alienated people from those kind of bits.
Yeah.
And I also think a bit about breaking those down. And I've seen with working with yourself before about walking over to other people, hello, how are you? Making people feel important, that it breaks down those tribes from that point of view. I think that sets that kind of cultural climate. And who do you think sets the culture or climate within the organisation? What's your view around that?
I actually genuinely believe that everybody has a
Yeah,
part to
good.
play.
Yeah, spot.
It's this it doesn't matter. You bring your own energy, you bring
Yeah,
your own, your own
yeah,
influence, and without real, I show up today, in work every day with a genuine motivation to do the best that I can do, to be the
Yeah.
best me, to bring the best vibes that I can, and to make people smile and laugh, because we have no idea what's going on for people outside of
Yeah.
work. The world moves so quickly. We tend to just get a snapshot of someone's life in
Yeah.
work, and unless we really do get to know them, and it can be really difficult because people are bringing that into work, and
Yeah.
you could assume just by looking at someone that they're miserable or whatever, but they could have had a whole load of stuff going on at
Yeah.
home that we just don't know about. And I think the sentiment of that we're hearing so much nowadays, particularly, is just be kind, just be a decent
Yeah.
human being. We don't have to try at that. Surely we don't. Like we that's not something that we should be trained in at school or something. Oh, be
Yeah.
kind and just be a decent human. It's something that should just be within
Yes.
us, and bringing that into a workplace can,
Yeah.
even something as simple as that, can affect the culture so rapidly.
Yeah. And the bit there I really, really kind of appreciate of, we don't know what's going on in people's lives. We've got no idea. Sometimes work can be a complete escape from that point of view. And I think that I laughed then in a very nice way of, I didn't need to be taught wrong from right or how to be polite to people or hello, how are you, those kind of things. But you know what? It stood me a good test of time to say to people, how are you today? You don't seem yourself. Do you want to have a chat or a natter? Those kind of things. But then people go, do you know what? You're interested in me rather than me as a number.
Yeah.
And I always remember one of my old bosses that really resonated with me about how to treat people nicely. But one of my old bosses, when we used to come into the branch in the bank on a Monday morning, I was so excited as a young lad. I wanted to tell everybody about my great weekend, and I played football and I did stuff. And he used to come in and open the door, the big glass doors, and he'd say, "How was your weekend?" And I go, "Yeah, I had a really good weekend." He'd go, "Great, enjoy your day." And I thought, you're not actually interested in me. You're just a tick box from that
Yeah.
point of view. And then next week, it was like, "How was your weekend?" I went, "Yeah, it's fine." So that demotivation you can have within milliseconds and make people feel good, or milliseconds you can make them feel the other way, isn't it? That's what I've
Well, I
noticed with
mean,
my year.
that the prime example of that is we are teaching people how to be with us all of the time.
Yeah,
And people are learning from other people all of the time. And in that moment, you you were taught to just respond with a yeah, I'm fine, because
yeah,
you learn that they're not really interested, and that is so important, especially if you're a leader. If
yes,
you are a leader and you have direct reports, your team are going to be looking at you all of the time
yeah,
to know how to be,
yeah,
and to try and suss out what your true intent is,
yeah,
and they'll notice it before you've even recognised it.
yeah, yeah. And I think also the other bit there, which I slightly digress, but that leader that constantly develops themselves, the team follow, isn't it? So
Correct.
like with you or I can, constantly developing, how can I make myself better? Also enjoyment, those kind of things. People will follow and go, well, they're doing it. That's a good thing to do. Whereas I've seen often with people going, right, people should do more for their development, but the leader's not. Therefore, people don't follow. Would that be your thought as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's well, it's the old saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, actually, because people are going to do what you do.
Yes.
Like, they're
Yeah. Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to. Words are very,
Yeah.
very cheap, and you can say whatever, but people do what you do.
Yeah.
Um, so, and also somebody that is developing themselves, a leader that is developing themselves, is more likely in a conversation to say to their team member, "Have you considered
Yeah.
this?" And they
Yeah.
could be proposing a course, or they could be proposing,
Yeah.
something that's going to open their mind, because that's how they enter the
Yes.
conversation, with that open mind, with that
Yeah.
forward view. um, or they're better equipped to
Yeah.
recognize skill gaps. So, somebody might be coming in with quite a limited thinking, or with a certain conundrum, or you going through your PDP with your team
Yeah.
member, and you're able to very quickly spot gaps
Yeah.
in their capability, competence, or thinking. So you, as the growth leader, are more likely to go, have you thought about, what about this route? Or,
Yeah.
there's three possible avenues here. Which
Yeah.
which one do you think is the right one?
Yeah.
And they're more likely to put the ownership back onto that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that, what just popped into my head, like that facilitator of growth. That's what that leader is that facilitator of growth, of how the person can keep enhancing or moving forward. And what about when people are stuck? So the phrase I use, like, can't see the wood through the trees. But how would you recommend people from their personal development when they get stuck, or kind of they're not really knowing where they're going? What would you recommend from your experience?
Well, I'd firstly say that that is completely normal.
Yes.
There is the majority of people that I speak to, whether it be in an athletic
Yeah.
environment, or whether it be in the actual
Yeah.
workplace, the majority of people arrive quite
Yeah.
stuck with
Yeah.
an inability to see what their next move is. So I would say totally fine. It's totally normal. Um, but where are you trying to get to? So what's your overall ambition?
Yeah.
And that can be quite, if somebody's feeling quite overwhelmed, then that can be quite a big question. So what I'd want to do is try and suss out, are they stuck? So do they know where
Yeah.
to get to, but they're not sure what their next move is? Or are they
Yeah.
overwhelmed? And
Yes.
by overwhelmed, it's, I'm not really sure whether where I want to get to is really where I want to get to, and there's too many
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
So I would try to understand that first. So do a little bit of discovery
Yeah.
about where that person wants to get to and why it's so important to them. But then if the end goal isn't too clear, or if the next step isn't too clear, then I would want to understand what is it that ignites your soul?
Yeah.
What environments are important for you to thrive in?
Yeah.
Where will you be at your best? What are you doing?
Mm.
And I would try to understand whether that's going to be something that the person wants to explore more. And nine times out of
Yeah.
10, it is. Of course, people want to be doing things that ignite their soul. Of course, they
Yeah.
do. Um, and then it's always, if you were going to ask yourself one question, it's, do you know where you want to get to and why?
Yeah.
And what's one thing you could do? If you could only do one thing
Yeah.
today or this week to take a step
Yeah.
to move in that direction, what would that be?
Yeah.
Because every decision you make will either move you closer to or
Yeah.
further away from your end goal.
Yeah.
So that there is one thing, people will be doing things all of the time today, and they'll be
Yeah.
making decisions. What's the one decision or one thing you can
Yeah.
do, whether it be small, big, or whatever, to move you closer to the direction you want to be going in?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd really, and I think that takes just a good bit of quality time as well, doesn't it? It's not a quick 5 minute, hi, how are you, Gemma? Where do you want to go? You look a bit stuck. It's
Mm,
actually, should we have a cup of tea and a coffee? Or
yeah,
should we just sit down for a minute, talk me through where you want to go? Because I think, just in my belief, it allows people to breathe and go, oh yeah, do you know, actually, I'm a bit stuck and I'm not sure where I want to go. And I also like the thing, like, I always call it baby steps. So where's the next step? What one thing could you do this week or that way will take you closer, not further away
yeah,
from that point of view? And that gets the person going, it is achievable. I can do a baby step, rather than it could be the task has got too big for them and cumbersome. But I think that just helps them kind of be clear mind. And I really like the phrase there of what ignites your soul. So I think I'm going to copyright that, or I might steal that as well.
all
So
right,
I don't
okay.
use that one, but I might nick that one. But it is true though,
You're
what ignites
welcome.
your soul, isn't it?
Mm.
So when you get out of bed in the morning, what really gets you, fire in your belly? What really kind of moves you forward? So I think it's a great phrase. So from your point of view, we hear about growth mindset, we talk about people's mindsets, etc., and we hear that kind of a lot. What's your view about people, how they can develop their resilience, how they can develop their growth mindset? How has that worked for you over time?
I only need to say one sentence.
Yeah.
Mindset is everything.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, so if we head back to the beginning of our talk
Yeah.
today, our chat, somebody arrives to us, I'd like a promotion.
Yeah.
Person one, mindset one, if you like.
yeah,
the sit and wait mentality. Somebody's going to notice my ability. I'm just going to keep working. I'm going to do things that I think are the right thing.
yeah,
I'm going to make assumptions. I'm going to make my logic, my conclusions.
yeah,
And mindset two is, what can I do? What's within my
yeah,
control? Who can I talk to? Who's the decision maker here? What do I need to learn?
yeah,
In both, neither are right or wrong, but one is going to make significant improvements. One is
yeah,
demonstrating the growth mindset and taking the ownership and accountability on themselves.
yeah,
So mindset is really everything. If you can see it, you can achieve it, and that is something that I have believed forever.
yeah,
We are the greatest storytellers. We are imagining lives for ourselves. We're creating stories, books, everything in our minds
yeah,
all of the time. What's the one thing that is going to ignite your soul, that you are heading
yeah,
towards? Because if you have the imagination to see it, and visualization, particularly in sports performance, has been so well researched. We know that there is a hell of a lot of performance enhancers in
yeah,
visualization. If you can see it, you are already on your way to
yeah,
achieving it. And it's then the small marginal gains, those
yeah,
incremental steps that will get you to where you want to be. So the growth mindset opens doors. It will find you new avenues and new routes to head down and to
yeah,
explore. Um, the opposite, if we in my head, I
yeah,
immediately visualize somebody sitting in a dark room,
yeah,
unsure of where to go, really little light. But the growth mindset will go, there is light somewhere, and
yeah,
I'm going to find it, because that's going to be our way out.
yeah,
And who would not want to be, which one would you want to be around?
yeah,
Which one is going to catapult you towards,
yeah,
your best self?
yeah,
Because I know who I'd want to be around, and by default that means I know who I want to be.
yeah. And it's, I mean, that's so perfectly kind of captured there about um, the room with the light, the growth mindset. What there is a bit of light, how do we get there? Rather than there's no light, we're just going to sit here and stay from that point of view. But I also think about controlling your own destiny. That growth mindset is, do you know what? I'm going to go and talk to people. I'm going to go and find out, or what I need to get to the next bit. I'm going to go and be vulnerable and say, look, how can I get to this job? Tell me what I need to do or what you're looking for, those kind of things. They're going to put themselves out rather than waiting for a tap on the shoulder. A tap on the shoulder will only get you so far in your career. Those ones with real growth mindsets will really kind of elevate kind of their kind of careers, won't they? If and from my experience that I've seen over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in sport as well. The the people that come up to me and say, will you write me a program? This is my goal, and you're kind
Yeah,
of doing the discovery with them, and you can, as a trainer, you can write them the best program in the world.
yeah,
You can provide all the solutions in the world, and I suppose this goes back to the real taking ownership of it. Is, well, I'm not going to be physically doing the workout for you. I
yes, yeah,
can't, do
yeah,
those deadlifts in order for you to get stronger.
yeah,
You're going to have to take the accountability on to get
yes,
into the gym. And
yeah,
if you're then saying to me, well, I'm not seeing any results, but you're kind of going home and you're feeding
yes,
yourself with a load of Twixes, well, that's on you. That,
yes,
and that is
yeah,
the mindset and the behaviors that you have to own, if you're going to be, communicating, this is my goal
yeah,
and I really want to get there. And the people that really do want to achieve their goals and
yeah,
receive the accolades for their hard work are the people that keep themselves honest and stay
yeah,
honest to themselves in the moments where nobody's watching. So
yes,
something that I always think about and I communicate to others is, who are you when nobody's watching?
yeah, yeah,
Because that will tell you how accountable and how much ownership you
yes.
put on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that also echo about personal integrity and those kind of things, isn't it? What I'm saying and doing one point, but behind the scenes, what am I demonstrating or listening to, those kind of stuff. And I think that just, from my point of view, sums it up beautifully. Just about that kind of ownership mindset. It's my integrity, what I'm showing from my brand as well. So what I'm demonstrating from that point of view. And how did you know my favourite chocolate's Twix? How did you know
Sorry,
that?
I just know. I can read you like a book.
That is one of my favourite things, Twix. So that
It's because you had a bit of Twix around your mouth when we
yes,
started the conversation.
when we started today. So Gemma, this has been lovely today. Absolutely kind of awe-inspiring about personal development. So I really appreciate it. So how can people connect with you, contact you? What's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, well, definitely it'd be a pleasure to, hear any feedback. I really hope that this has been helpful to people or just kind of ignited something. That's the reason why we tell stories and share. So
Yeah,
I hope that that's happened. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, please. So Gemma Krasucka, you can
yeah.
find me on there, and I'll be more than willing to answer any questions or see how I can support.
Yeah, fantastic. So, can I just say thank you so much today? Really, really appreciate it. Absolute joy, to be working with you, but also kind of the podcast today. Can I just say enjoy your weekend coming up, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. But thank you so much for today, Gemma. Really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Stephen.